Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today I have another first impression. So back-to-back first impressions, but I had to do this because this is a very special first impression. This is a fragrance that was sent to me by Russian Adam from the brand of Areej Dore. This is called Civet de Nuit. He sent me multiple samples. You can maybe see some of them right up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I can't remember. 6, 7, 8 samples, something like that. Very kind of him. It's the first time a brand has ever sent me anything. I was insistent on samples only, no full bottles, because I want to be able to say that all these bottles were bought with my own money. That's important to me. And it's also important to me that I retain my own independence. In the fact that this is my opinion, and I made it clear to him that if he sends me this, I can say whatever I want about it, good, bad, or indifferent. I already got some messages saying, please don't start accepting samples from brands. Let me just say that, for me, it's a way for me to get my nose on something like this, to give you guys a video, to give you guys my 2 cents on it, without having to spend all this money on every single thing that comes out. So I will gladly accept anything with the expectation that I reserve the right to say whatever I want about it. I have to, I feel a certain amount of obligation to my subscribers, mostly because I have some of the best first 700 subscribers I think that a channel could ask for. I mean, you guys are so knowledgeable and interactive, and I absolutely have enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, to be honest with you. There's something about doing these videos that, in the past I used to think that the enjoyment from the fragrance was simply me getting to wear the fragrance and enjoy it. Now I'm finding that it's me getting to wear the fragrance and also maybe interact with you guys, let you guys in on some of the knowledge that I've acquired, but even more, gain knowledge back from the community. And that's been very important. And if I ever feel like I am breaking that bond by telling a lie over a free bottle or a free sample, I won't do these videos anymore. It won't just be the bond between me and you. It is the bond between me and myself. I mean, I have my own standards that I feel like I have to live up to, and I have to be true to myself. So you don't need worry. There will be no, good reviews just because I got a sample. Even if he sent me a full bottle, it would not change what I have to say about this. So hopefully you can respect that. That being said, I chose to do Civet de Nuit first. This is the newest release from the bunch. I got some other older stuff that I don't think you can buy anymore. This one you can still actually go buy. It's still available. I think 48 mLs is $400, which is pricey. Don't get me wrong, it's a pricey fragrance, but that's how Areej Dores are. They are used with the highest quality ingredients. In fact, I'm going to read you the note list here in a second, and you're going to hear some notes that are absolutely amazing. You're going to hear stuff like Mysore sandalwood, and usually I would say bollocks. They're not using Mysore sandalwood, but here, this is probably one of the few brands that maybe they really are using real Mysore sandalwood. So it's that kind of a fragrance, okay? Let me address something first, though. Before we talk about the fragrance itself, let me just mention the name Civet in the title. Civet de Nuit. I just did a fresh spray. I've got a dry down here, and this is a very long fragrance from what I can tell. Very long. It's a fragrance that lasts a long time, and it even feels like you just did a fresh spray 6, 7 hours in. I purposely waited. It's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I applied this at 8 this morning. So I really got a chance to at least go into the dry down, because the dry down of this fragrance is amazing. That's where it really does tend to shine. So I'll give you my thoughts here in just a second. But before I get into the fragrance, let's talk about Civet in the name. So when people see Civet de Nuit, they're going to think that this is an animalic bomb. They're going to think of fragrances like this. This is Furyo by the house of Jacques Bogart. This came out in the late 80s. This is an absolute civet, just complete, just civet on civet on civet with rose and It is a tenacious fragrance. It's obviously synthetic civet, Civetone or whatever they use nowadays. You'll also probably think of this fragrance. This is Koros. Now, this is the vintage parfum. I'm sorry, this is the vintage Charles of the Ritz bottle that Areej just scored for me a week ago. And you can see the stain that Civet actually leaves, real Civet from the past, left on the nozzle. This is a 1984 bottle from my understanding, and it turns out that the juice is only until about right there. I don't know if you can see. So it has been used and sprayed a bit before I got it, hence the stain. But the civet in those type of fragrances are completely different. That's probably the that's the archetype civet that people think about. This is completely different. Apparently this is antiquated civet tincture that's used from a company that went out of business 50 years ago. Okay, so the civet is antiquated, it's old, but it's real civet. And you don't get this animalic punch like you do, that animalic twang. I only watched one video on this. Actually, there's not many reviews on Civet de Nuit, especially for a brand new Areej Dore. I watched the wafts from the wafts from the Lofts guy talk. And they said some things that I definitely agree with. One of the things that was said that should be repeated is that this opens up the main accord, if you will, is a heliotrope note. It's a floral. It's an aldehydic floral top, okay? And it harkens back to perfumery of old. And when I say that, I have a little bit... So one thing I should mention before we go into this is this was a composition that was created by Sultan Pasha and Russian Adam as a collaboration, okay? I am at a little bit of a disadvantage, especially compared to the wafts for the Lofts guys, because I have never smelled anything from Sultan Pasha. So I'm coming at this basically like with a virgin nose. I don't know his work. I don't know whether this smells more like a Sultan Pasha or whether this smells more like a Russian Adam fragrance. I've only smelled maybe a handful of Areej Dore fragrances anyways. That being said, when you first spray, you get this very Play-Doh-y, almondy heliotrope note. And it will remind you of the heliotrope in this. This is Le Bleu. Now, in order to create a fragrance like this, you have to have some sort of understanding or appreciation of fragrances that came from the past, okay? So Sultan Pasha and a Russian Adam create a fragrance like this. They don't just go into their bathtub and create something like this. This comes from deep-seated knowledge and appreciation of the past, okay? That being said, a riff on Le Bleu, a modern riff on it, if you will, with amazing ingredients: oak moss, benzoin, tobacco, olibanum, white ambergris, castoreum, sandalwood from Mysore, styrax, labdanum, musk, heliotrope, aldehydes, antiquated civet tincture, night blooming jasmine. I don't know how that compares to regular jasmine. Ylang ylang. That is a fragrance that, unless you're somebody like me who really appreciates fragrance and has a deep understanding of fragrances from the past, a man very well might smell this today. A modern man who sticks to men perfumery and doesn't, delve into the women's perfume section with Le Bleu. They might smell this and go, woman's perfume. And they would be making a huge mistake, because this fragrance is broken up into two parts from what I smell. There's a very distinct first 3-4 hours, and then there's a very distinct 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours where you get to the base, where you get to the Labdanum. The labdanum in this is beautiful. That's back-to-back labdanum fragrances for me, by the way. Yesterday was Sahara Noir. It's beautiful, but you have to get there. If you spray this and go, not for me, you'll miss out, okay? It's a good fragrance, but you have to understand the ballpark that you're playing in. You're playing in a heliotrope fragrance. And if you have watched some of my old videos, I've mentioned many a times that heliotrope is a note that, if not dosed correctly, can really take over the fragrance. And I thought that's what I was smelling the first hour of this fragrance. You get this major almond Play-Doh accord. I just sprayed it, so I'm getting it right now. There's no almond in this fragrance. There's definitely no Play-Doh. This is heliotrope. That's what heliotrope does in big doses. It's a huge floral. If you've smelled Le Bleu, you know what I'm talking about. Now, let me show you a couple other floral civet fragrances. They're not the same. One is more of a amber civet. But let me show you two fragrances that at least will give you an idea of what you're dealing with, okay? The first one is Goldman by Amouage. This is an aldehydic floral by Guy Robert that came out in the early 80s with a big civet note. This is much closer to vintage Joy by the House of Patou than it is to Civet de Nuit, because Civet de Nuit has much more ambers, labdanum, benzoin, olibanum, sandalwood, stuff like that. The fragrance that I heard people compare to on Fragrantica, which I don't think is really a comparison, but maybe only if you took that old school civet note out. And the reason that the comparison makes sense is this fragrance came out in the 1950s, I believe. It came out forever ago. This is called Balaversailles, from the house of Jean Desprez. Okay, this is the extrait. This is a 28 ml extrait. Absolutely stunning bottle, by the way. Look at that. This used to be Michael Jackson's signature scent. It is a huge civet bomb. And my God. If you just took the civet note, this is a big amber as well. If you just took the civet note out of this, that's probably very similar to the civet you're going to get in this, which makes sense because this is 50 years old. This is over 50 years old. So this is at least 50-year-old civet. So there is some truth to that statement. Along with that powdery almond opening, right? You get that powdery almond floral heliotrope hit. There's aldehydes in the start, and they mix together to give you this big burst of powder. You get this giant floral powder, and that's the second part of the equation that is going to put the average maybe male who only goes towards masculine fragrances off, okay? The powder accord. There's a beautiful powder accord in this. Now, again, I go back to fine French perfumery of the past. There's no way that I think Areej Dore or Russian Adam and Sultan Pasha could create something like this without understanding perfume history. There is a big nod, a salute, if you will, to the fragrances of the past. And I took some notes here. That Play-Doh-y heliotrope, if you're a heliotrope lover, this fragrance is definitely a must sample. Definitely not a safe blind buy, but definitely a must sample. And the civet, so I thought about this while I was wearing it today. The civet in this fragrance never really takes the limelight. It never steps into the spotlight. It never becomes the star of the show. The civet in this fragrance is almost used to amplify that beautiful floral note. So you get that heliotrope, and then you get more florals with jasmine and ylang ylang, and they really steal the show in the first half of the fragrance. Okay, if you split it up into two halves, heliotrope, night blooming jasmine, and ylang ylang are the flowers that steal the show the first half. The second half of the fragrance, the base takes over, and it's a long fragrance from what I can tell. Remember, So you get oak moss. Here's the dry down. You get benzoin. You get a labdanum note, a beautiful labdanum note, and there's a pretty big musk note as well. I don't know if it's natural musk or if it's synthetic. I don't know. But I will tell you that there is a there is a musk note, and that when you get to the base, that labdanum is a very multifaceted note, and there is a note of olibanum listed, but for some reason the smokiness that I was getting was not smokiness that I originally would associate with olibanum. If you made me guess what is in this fragrance, I would have guessed labdanum, and I would have guessed that the smoky, leathery aspects of the fragrance that you're getting in the dry down are properties of the labdanum, not of olibanum, if that makes sense. So Sahara Noir yesterday had a big green incense note from the start, and I said that on my first impression video. That was a definite incense note. This, in the dry down, doesn't really feel like an incense note to me. Maybe it's unlit olibanum, but it feels more like this resinous labdanum, if you will. And sometimes labdanum can give off leathery facets as well. So you almost get this smoky, leathery dry down, and that's where it really feels like a fragrance that I would expect to smell if I smelled a Sultan Pasha or an Areej Dore. The opening of this fragrance also, Joe from Wasps from the Loft said he got like a coffee note in the opening. And I'm getting that right here. There is a little bit of a coffee note when you first spray, but it almost smells like Play-Doh-y coffee, if that makes sense. And there is no coffee note listed. I wonder if there is a touch of oud, and maybe that oud is giving off a little bit of a coffee note in the opening. There was this coffee and oud fragrance that Bortnikov did called Lao Oud, which I absolutely love. I would love a bottle of that stuff. I have a decan. It's amazing. It's one of the best coffee ouds I've ever smelled. You do get a little bit of this coffee vibe, but it's mostly, you know, the lead singer, the one standing in the spotlight, hands down, no questions asked, is the heliotrope. That is the absolute star of this show. And so this dark coffee spicy thing in the opening, mixing with it, with the aldehydes and the heliotrope, it really lasts a long time. It takes a bit to really get into the heart, into the dry down, which tells me that the quality ingredients are top notch. So, pros and cons. To my nose, the number one pro of this fragrance, well, two things. Number one is that the quality of the ingredients are top notch, hands down, 100%. You can instantly tell you're smelling something that is very special. This is not just you go to, you know, your local fragrance store and pick out a fragrance and it's synthetic, and no, this is a special fragrance. So if you're going to pay $400 for 48 ml, you're going to expect something amazing, and you are getting that. The second pro is the nod, the bow to the past, if you will. And I really appreciate that. It almost gave me chills today wearing this and thinking about those two guys interacting and talking about perfume from the past and then creating something like this. Now the downsides. Obviously, price and availability are limited, but it is still available from my understanding. But the biggest downside for me is that, you know, if you talk to someone like Eugene, L'air Bleu is his favorite fragrance, right? For me, L'air Bleu is something that it's almost like an exhibit in an art museum. I appreciate it for what it is. you know, it is a classic, and it has a time and a place, and it puts me in a very contemplative mood, and I think about the times right before World War I when I wear this. This fragrance, while it takes that DNA and enhances it with this, you know, high-end ingredients that, I mean, who gets to work with 50-plus-year-old Civet, right? Very few people. So they take that style and they create something amazing with it. For me, though, is it full bottle worthy? Probably not. For me personally. Now, I hope I was objective enough where if this is your kind of fragrance, this will make you sample it, or this will make you buy a bottle or something. I hope that I was fair enough that if this is your style of perfumery, that you understand that this is the fragrance to target. For me, because I have stuff like this, and because I have stuff like this, and because I have stuff like this, and because I have stuff like this, I've got Civet pretty much covered. I would love to smell a version of this done where the Civet is animalic like Koros. I would absolutely love that. I would blind buy that, honestly. But I should also touch on this point. So I have Koros over the years. I have a Parfums Corp. I have a couple L'Oreal bottles that have the silver shoulders, and I have the Charles of the Ritz. I was expecting the Charles of the Ritz to be this dirty animal, just one of the most dirty things I've ever smelled. It's not. The older Civet is actually somehow more, it's somehow more beautiful, more refined is the word that Rich Mitch used, and I agree with that word exactly. It's refined in a way that you don't expect. You don't expect refinement from Koros. You expect dirty, animalic, in your face, pissy. That's not what the real Civet apparently gets. It's the synthetic Civet, the Civetone, that gives you that, I guess, or whatever particle Givaudan or whoever they are created, you know. So maybe they can't create that accord with a natural Civet. I don't know. I'm not a perfumer. I'm just a guy that loves fragrances. But I would absolutely love that. Something just big and bold and in your face that harkens back to Koros using Civet. But this is not it. So don't let the name fool you. If you understand what you're getting, it's an amazing fragrance. And I think the Wasps from the Lofts guys actually did a really good job of describing it. I didn't watch the other two reviews that were on the internet. I don't know those people. But I will say that this is a good first start, and I hope this first impression helps you if you are, you know, if you're one of the people that would buy something like this. I have not delved into this world very much. Like I said, I've never even smelled a Sultan Pasha. I've never even smelled an Attar, okay? And so for me, I think I'm a little bit of at a disadvantage. Maybe people whose noses, because it's not just whether you have a good nose or not. Everyone always says, oh, you have such an amazing nose. It's not the nose. Everyone has a great nose. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people have a nose that functions properly and can smell. It's about the history and the knowledge and understanding of fragrances that have come and gone. And if you've smelled a lot of things, you can withstand maybe things that are a little dirtier or a little bit more resinous or this or that, or, you know, you can... you grow to a level of knowledge and understanding of how perfumery works in a sense. So it's not just the nose, it's the understanding. And in the Attar world, where these guys play, I have some Bortnikovs. I have a couple samples of Areej Dore, mostly because of thanks to you guys and now Russian Atom. But I don't really have very much experience in the Attar world. So maybe someone who has smelled some of Sultan Pasha's other works might think completely different of this than me. I don't know. But that's my initial take on it, basically. I think it's a good fragrance if you approach it from the proper angle. If you approach it expecting to be this, you're gonna be disappointed. I have enough history and knowledge to understand. I immediately understood what it was. It's a heliotrope fragrance with other amazing ingredients around it. But as long as you go in, don't put a gender on this fragrance. Don't spray it and go, oh, it's a woman's fragrance, and throw it and sell it. You'll be missing out if that's the case, because there is a lot to uncover here. These fragrances take time, they take energy, they take, understanding, smelling, different points along the dry down, all that kind of stuff. So it's a fragrance for fragrance lovers. Obviously, no one's going to pay $400 if they're just fresh off the street, unless they won the lottery or something. But I hope that at least my take on this has helped some people, as I didn't see too many reviews up there. This isn't really a review, it's a first impression. I've given it a little bit of a wear. Maybe half of the juice already is gone. By the way, Russian Atom, these are the worst sprayers I've ever encountered. I don't know if you know that, but this is absolute. You get about 10 sprays, give you one real spray with this thing. But I made it work, and I do appreciate you sending me. It was very kind of you, seriously. So I could do this, and if you guys have experience with this fragrance, do let me know. Or if you have expectations of trying it, I love interacting with you guys. It's my favorite part of doing all of this. And I thank you very much for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye bye.